comes together, like your right and left brain playing together, if you will, right? Before I start the presentation, I would like to thank a couple of people, Tracy Fitzgerald and Patrick Vanderhyde, for giving me the opportunity to present and share my art, if you will, on this platform. And also like to give a shout out to Prashant Sharma, a friend of mine from India, who was a Tableau buddy, who oversaw some conversations between the Twitter feed and also on the community. And he said, hey, KK, we are talking about the same thing. That's when I, kind of came to the community thing and saw that, and this opened up to present my session. So thanks to him. Excuse me. So before, when I was thinking about this presentation, I was thinking how to become a data artist, right? But more and more, I think about it, today, using Tableau as a tool, we take this data that's in different formats, different files, and different structures, and we convert into this a functional piece of art, if you will, if you think in that way, right? It's, bar graphs, line graphs, charts that brings value to the business community. It is also an art, but it, it has its own purpose. You have a context around it. You're building towards that. But during this process, when you're dragging those color fields or when you're dragging those dimensions and measures onto the Tableau, you probably might have come across some of these shapes that doesn't seem right because you're thinking your end goal is to create these charts. But if you really think about that and then start thinking from a creativity perspective, as Patrick just mentioned, from curiosity, does this look something weird or different, right? So if you start scratching that a little bit more, you would discover your own artist. So I'm going to be changing my title instead of becoming one. I think every one of us who's using Tableau or data visualization tools, we are an artist itself. So this is kind of, discovering your own data artist. Just to say a couple things about me, my name is KK Molugu. I work for South Star Energy Services. I manage their data analytics. My background has been in technology, in program, built enterprise-wide systems, and I moved into marketing to do e-commerce strategy and to build data management for the campaign processes. And then eventually went into managing data analytics, and with Tableau, I'm doing a lot of data visualization, helping the business users to give them what they want in an agile, quick fashion. I've been using Tableau, I would say, a little close to a year right now. I think my first 3-minute whiz was on the Christmas Eve last year. I like the product for, simple reasons. It empowers the users to let them do what they want to do, to let them play with the data and analyze the data to get to their end goal. It stretches your curiosity, right? Once you start seeing the things visually in front of you, even though you just want to get to that final state, you're always thinking, what's going on here? Let me just dig deep into that. So that helps you, and right then and there, you're answering those questions. And I love it because, it made me a data artist, right? So data and art, when did this all start, at least from my perspective? If you really look at, this is my Google Plus profile page a few months back. And I was thinking about this, I'm a data artist or I'm a data visualization guy, use data. I should be using better background than just, raindrops and, beautiful landscapes. So I play with Chicago 311 data a lot, similar to what all of us use the office supply, superstore data or the copy chain data. So I wanted to show Chicago 311, just to give you a background, it's a platform where customers or citizens of Chicago can call in or go to their website, log a complaint that could be, they spotted a rat or a rodent on the street, or lights are off, or potholes in the city, graffiti removal, all different types of options they can go and complain. So I was just analyzing that for my blog, and I wanted to see how many complaints were logged within a week, and then how many complaints were kind of resolved in the same week. So when I was doing that, it ended up, something like this, right? I just changed the colors, but if you really think about that, if you really start scratching your curiosity and artistic brain, it looks more like there are some mountains and you probably have some reflections in the water, right? Again, it's not what my objective was, but it was just, I was thinking, that's interesting. I didn't really do anything with that because, my purpose was not to create art at the time, but that was in the process, as we have seen, during the process of going from the data to your end goal, if you start thinking, what could you do in just a fun way, and there might be some possibilities that will open up. Sure enough, a few weeks later, Tableau announced this destination data with that art contest for the customer conference in Seattle in September. And they want to be, they want to showcase if there was something unexpected, something fun. And I thought, what, maybe I should throw my hat into the ring. So I started, again, playing with 311 data. One of the objectives for this contest was we can only use 4 colors. Even if you use gradient scale, it cannot be more than 4 because they were using the dot matrix printer, I believe, to print it on the t-shirts and the back. So that was one of the restrictions. So I started playing with circles using Tableau with Chicago 311 data, and I ended up with this. It's nothing but a bunch of circles, and picked one circle, made it a little bit larger with calculated fields, and I called this Twinkle, Twinkle. So I submitted this, but I was not 100% happy. I was like, what, maybe I could do a little bit better. Then I don't know how many of you have used polygons. It's one of those things we don't really use in our regular day-to-day job. But, when I was exploring one day, I was playing with it, and it gives you this freaky polygon shapes. I was thinking maybe there's something that would come out of it, right? So after some playing with that, I ended up with this, and I call this lovebirds. They just look like birds to me. Tableau buddy Peter Gillick said it's love swamp, so it could be either one of those. So let me just be clear here. This is 85% accidental and only 15% data mining. So I wasn't expecting to create birds from the data. The fact that the data was beautiful enough to, render itself to become birds, so it kind of, helped me to get to my end goal. Then I thought, maybe, this is good too, but I wasn't, still happy, right? It's one of those things you're always constantly looking for something. Then I remembered my, the mountains thing that I did for the Google Plus profile. Then played with the area charts and bar charts. I ended up with this, and I call this have a blissful day, like early in the morning kind of thing, right? Here we have a radial bar chart, and I would like to thank Dave Hart from Interworks Europe. He has a blog about how to create a radial bar charts. I don't know if there's a business purpose, big thing for it, not, but it fit right into my art as a son. And as you all know, this is one of the 3 winners of the contest, so I'm happy for that. This is when I said, okay, I'm good with it. I'm done with 3. I don't want to do more because we still had a couple more days left. But part of me was saying that maybe I could do something else. And then I don't know, when you're contemplating between yes and no, or do it and don't do it, your conscience come and sit on your shoulders and start talking in your ears. I call them white dude and red dude. So I had the same feeling too, right? So the white dude says that this all looks good. Good luck, KK. Go win this. But my red dude says that, what do you mean? We need to create more. The white dude again challenging the red dude, saying that why? Do you want to compete yourself? And because I know that there are going to be a lot of, Tableauholics, we call people using Tableau. They might be participating in there, and we don't want any chances. So, red dude wants to win. White dude basically, rested the case, said that, and I think we should not create any more. So I went with the white dude, and I said, no more visits. Just for the record, the white dude and red dude are my wife and I. So I said, okay, I'll go with her. Next day I was at work. I was actually playing with some data for some business project out there, doing some survey analytics. I hope it's clear for you to see. I was trying to see, based on a survey channel, how many responses we got. When I looked into that, like Q1 was really dull, not showing up. So I said, maybe just change the size. So I reversed the size of the quarter. It showed up like this, right? Again, this was truly a project I was working on, not for the artwork. Guess who showed up? Red Hood, right? And he was like, it looks like a sleeping building. It's one of those, your curiosity, start looking differently in a visual perspective. And I thought, okay, why don't I swap the columns in Tableau workbook? Sure enough, it looked like a top of Sears Tower or Willis Tower in Chicago. So when I was done with my work, I went back to I would call probably my final artwork, played with some shapes and circles. I ended up with this because the fact when you start pulling measures onto the shelf, they start with green color. I didn't want to change anything, and it looked like an emerald city, so I submitted this. A lot of friends actually loved it. Even this was my favorite than the landscape art, but there were a lot of participants and contestants. So this one was not part of the top 10, but I love what we ended up doing here. So we have seen the 4 different things as an end product, but end of the day when you're playing with Tableau, you really want to look at how to get to that. So we'll show all those artwork that I've done one at a time. So let me just open up my Tableau. One second. So we'll start with the Twinkle Twinkle Love Star, what we have here. So let's start with this. So this is the end product that you're seeing, right? When I started looking at the circles and bubbles, so this is the end product. So let's start building that. So what I want to do is that I want to actually drag my date to the column shelf, and I want to see how many complaints were received by the date. So you did that, and then you pulled your number of records, and then I said I want to use the circles shape. So it looked like there were a lot of complaints in a particular category. So what I wanted to do is that I actually want to bring in instead of aggregating them, I want to bring it for every type of the request. So this looked like a lot of dots out there. So what I did at that time, just kind of reduce the size, I went and changed the axis so that I don't have a lot of space on the top or the bottom. So I started from 100 at the bottom and maybe to 800, 700 at the top. Right. So now I see plots have scattered all over the place. So because when I was playing with it, I was thinking that this looks like stars. So I thought maybe I should pick one particular element or one particular mark and make it a bigger size and leave everything rest, right? So I created a formula, basically just picking one field, and it said if that's the particular data that I'm looking for, if the type of the record and the date, and I made it 1,000, everything else is 1, right? So I dragged that to the size shelf. Now you see that everything stays at one size, and then the moon becomes a little bit bigger. So change the size. Now it's the moon and stars, so we need to go back to the night sky, right? So go to your format and make sure that you remove all your grid lines, you hide your headers, and then change your background to black, and then you change your color to white. That's it. As simple as it is. Twinkle, twinkle, little star there, right? And again, if you want to play with it, what you could do is that you could just pick a couple of marks from here, pick a couple marks from there. You could have did another formula. So if you just bubble them up and enough, so they might just look like clouds, right? Again, you can start stretching your creativity, and do more and more things. So that's my first piece of art. Let's close this. And then let's open up the blissful day here. And I've used, actually, when I started putting this product together, or the artwork, I've used all the data that I had, about 3.7 million records. But I realized that when I was uploading to the public, it can only take million records. So I had to cut it down to a million records. I think 987,000 records are behind this. So let's start building that. And this is the end product that we have here. So let's go build that. So what I have done is that I built the request column, type of request to the column shelf, and then just put my cheat sheet here. So what I want to do is that it's actually more of a I want to see how many complaints that we have logged in by week. Remember, we saw that Google plus circle. So I just did by the week, and then I saw how many records we have. So this gives you this amount initially. I only took 2013 and 2014 data, and then I dragged this to the color shelf. I initially had different colors, but I changed them to green. So let's go ahead and make them what it would have looked in the beginning. So this is what I would have had, right? So, and then I picked up the area chart. It's a stacked area chart. It just goes in the order that you have presented the data in your mark shelf here. So what I have done is that, as we know that there are only 4 colors allowed, so I went back and picked up, and this is after playing back and forth. I just said, okay, maybe I should use gradient scale of a grayscale. So I just picked up a few different colors. And the reason, the way I got to this was, when you look at any pictures out there in the morning or in the sunset or sunrise, you see a little bit darker shade at the bottom and lighter and gets lighter. And again, since I only have 4 colors, so I just wanted to restrict it to this to 3 colors, and then remove the transparency. Now it looks like mountains to me. Again, we have a couple fields in here, so we can go back and say, what, I want this to be still white color because your dark bottom is this. So that gave me my mountains. Right now, again, you cannot just look the mountains. Whenever you painted as a kid, you want to have something else. So I thought maybe I should start putting together some birds or something. So what I did was that I copied the sum of records to create dual mark on the shelf. But here I don't want to use area shapes. So I said maybe I'll use shapes. So now every element is aggregated to a shape. But again, I don't want to show all of it. So what I've done is that I went and picked up more shapes that I have, and I found on Google a couple of black birds. Again, I'm trying to be in my color zone. So let's go to this. And I don't need the color. So I went with the shape, but again, I only have 2 things here, right? So what I have done is that I want to have a couple different numbers. So I created a formula. All it's trying to do is that it's picking up some numbers. If the sum of records at that by week level is greater than 11,500 and less than 13,000, I call it bird 1, and there's a bird 2 for a different data set. Everything else called XX, right? Because I don't want to make everything as a bird. If I do that, then you'll have all birds all over the place. So when you're looking at a picture, you want to have different sizes of the bird. So I pull that into the shape here, right? But again, I have more birds, so I went back into the shape filter and I said, so I don't want to show all these marks. If I pull them into the dual axis, again, you have all these birds. It doesn't make any sense. So I went back. Either you could filter them out, but if you filter them out, you're actually filtering them on the entire worksheet, so you will lose the data points on the mountain. While I was browsing through, I found this neat trick. You just click on anything and you can hide it. So now you basically don't see all of them, but you're not even filtering it. So because of the fact that these birds are does not have a transparent background, so again they're interfering with my mountains. The way that you can overcome is that you can just go to your axis, just change your axis. So make that to be 12,000 and play with it. So they show up a little bit taller or higher. So once you get to that point, as long as they're not interfering with your mountain shapes to be visible enough, then you're done. So when I was done with this, again, we can format it a little bit to get to the point of having the clean background and no grid lines. But again, this was not sufficient at that point. I was thinking, what else I can add? I was thinking I could add sun. I had a few options. Either I could have picked up a shape like a circle, leave it here, like a round orange ball. But if you remember when a kid draw, when you as a kid drew this sun, you always had some spark lines or rays coming out of it. So I was thinking either I could do the pie chart, and Mark Jackson has done an amazing job of showing multiple pies together. But for me, it seems a little bit a lot of work for the purpose. So as I mentioned earlier, Dave Hart from Interworks Europe created this radial bar chart, and I thought this is great for the purpose that I'm looking for. So basically use this technique. You can look for Dave Hart radial bar chart. You can find the detailed blog about how he did it. So I created that using the data that I have about abandoned vehicles from the Chicago 311, and then went into the dashboard, pulled my the mountains. Again, you can clean these up. Don't show the header. And then you just pull the sun into the middle. So when you do this, typically what happens is actually doing the tiles. So let's go back, and you can click the floating object when you want to pull items. You can just pull them right onto a shelf, and it's actually floating wherever you want to drag and drop. You just put it wherever where you want. Like that's about it. That's the have a blissful day art. So it's size-wise a little bit different, but you make it 600. That's it. That's the art number 2. Let's close this. Let's open up the Emerald City. I'm just saving for my bird art tours, and I'll tell you in a second why. So this one, as we were, I was looking at my work and saying that there are some way you can get these building structures. So when I went back and I started looking into that, so we got the type of request onto the column shelf, and I got my data to the at the week level, right? So this is now I see all these marks that are coming as the Gantt bar chart. So I just said instead of using them, use it as a bar, right? And then I got the number of records onto the color shelf. So that's it. Now you just see different shades based on, I think because the gradient scale is overlapping with each other. I want to again keep my colors to minimum, so I just said I'll keep this to 2 colors. And you can play with the transparency. You can draw some lines around it. Again, it started growing on its own thing, but again, it just looks like a block up on the top, right? So what I thought was, maybe I should make this size differently. So I got this into the size shelf and made it more of an year, like a discrete year. And if you really look into that, it's doing what you're asking it to do, but it's upside down. So you can go back into the edit sizes, you reverse it. There you go. That looks like the building, right? So I thought maybe, this is interesting. So instead of having all of them, I said maybe I should just take one building. So I just picked one and created my first building. So again, when you're looking at a landscape in the city, it's more than one building, right? So I just copied it, and then instead of using year, I said maybe I should do a quarter. So now it's changing the way that you have put your data element on the size shelf. Now it's looking at 4 quarters, like quarter 1 is this big one, second, third, fourth. Once you start looking into that, you can think about, how about you create 30 of them, right? So I'm sure it's like one of the buildings out there, right? You can do the day, it's like you have you have 30 days in the month, you can do that. Or you can pick an hour or minute or anything you want, because it's just giving you that much granularity in the data, right? So I keep adding to this, and I was thinking maybe I should use different shape. I said I'll use circles, right? This again doesn't seem right to me, but I said maybe if I go back to my quarter, this looks like another building. The fact that you have quarters and 2 different years, I went back and I want to filter it and just want to keep 1 year, that I'll keep 2013. And there you go, that's another building. So you copy another shape and you go back and pick another element. Then I was thinking maybe I should start playing with the shape. So this is one of the buildings that I came up with. But you can do star, you can do plus or multiplication, any symbol that you want. You can even load multiple shapes. Each and every one of them start coming into play as a different element. Some places I actually left 2 of them on the shelf. You see, and then I just basically deleted some of them here so that I don't need to worry about them to showing up. So now it becomes shorter. So doing all this artwork with little different shapes, and then go to the dashboard, and basically what I've done is that pick up each and every, it's in a tile format, we don't want that. Let's do a tile and start adding my buildings and start removing this. You could either use tile or you could either use the floating object. And then you picked up another one, keep adding. Picked up another one, keep adding, right? Again, you can add as many as possible to this. So ended up adding different shapes to this dashboard, and this was the final art that came out of the Emerald City. So every element in here is a worksheet onto this dashboard with different shapes. And again, I don't want to leave the city just all by itself, so I leveraged the fun that I had to create the complete art. So that's my art number 3. The reason I saved my wizard arts or the lovebirds to the end, as you remember, I mentioned earlier that this was 85% accidental, 15% data merging. So it's a little bit hard to repeat the exact same accidents. So I re-engineered that so that I can present it today, and hopefully we'll get to those birds. So just bear with me here. So once this gets loaded, so when you are using polygons, most of the time you use polygons to define a shape or the geo mapping, but it always you have to really understand what's going on behind that, right? So this was a random play. There's no rhyme or reason. What I was trying to do was crazily dragging these dimensions and measures onto a different shelf. But again, because I re-engineered that, I'm trying to see do what I've done. So at least we can get to the point here. So I pull the type of request onto the column shelf and pull the number of records onto my row shelf, right? So this is basically what it saw. So then I said, well, maybe I should do polygon. Again, this is what I was talking earlier, that you always see these funky shapes. During the Chicago 311 analysis, I was looking at, and I want to see how many records were open, how many records were closed, so that I could do that top and bottom mountain image that you have seen on my Google Circle. So I had this formula on my shelf. I said maybe I should just drop this onto my column shelf and then cut this into the color shelf. Right? Again, it's every time I do this, it's taken up a different shape. And I was trying to see if I can maybe try to bring the year to the path shelf. And again, don't ask me why I did this, but this is what I was doing. So now it's kind of broken down at the year level and trying to connect those all polygons together. So and I was thinking this looks like something where I want to be, or where kind of an artwork that I can submit to Tableau. So when you really look at this orange line and look at this data, it's nothing but 5 lines of graffiti removal data by year, aggregated with the open status that had 1 and 0, right? So if you really look into that, the fact that it's coming all the way here because this has this long data set. So I thought maybe if I just bring this data closer, or better yet, let's remove this. When I did that, I can expand this underlying data set. So I thought maybe I should just bring this closer. So what I did that in that same formula, I have my cheat sheet here. I went back and said, okay, if it's a graffiti removal, make it like 2/10 of what the value is, and everything else, keep it same, right? Because I just want to bring that closer with the other one. So when I apply it, all of a sudden, to my surprise, I was really amazed to see what it ended up. It was not my intention, but it looked like to me like maybe like a bird, right? In a way, it's like in the body of the bird with a long neck and a beak looking backwards. So I was thinking maybe is there a way I can change the bird beak to the front? So again, if you really look at this data, this particular point is at about 5,000 on the open status and about 240,000 around is this one, right? So 2012, I know this is the data that's actually making this, this particular mark on the shelf. So I went back and modified the formula that I had, and to the same thing, what I did was that, okay, why don't I include year, to the same condition, so that if it's only graffiti removal and 2012, make that smaller, right? Everything, leave like that. Did that. This is what it ended up. This was the code that I was visioning when I was going through the process. So now that I have one bird, I was thinking maybe I should create, one more bird and maybe call it like a love bird. So to do that, you could just copy the sum of records, on the column shelf. So you get these two things, in next to each other. So because of the fact that, you see these birds kind of facing each other in the water, whatever in the picture, so I said maybe I should go back and edit my axis and just reverse it. Now they're facing. But you look at that, they're kind of trying to hit each other. Maybe they're not fighting. So I again edit the axis, change my axis, start from minus 5,000 so that I can get some room. It moves to the left, and same thing with this. So I change the reference point so that I get some room, right? That looked like what I want. Again, went back and formatted it. Remove the grid lines. No more zero lines. And then again, going through the pane window, if you just remove all the marks that you have, it ends up with this. So you basically hide the header. That's it. I mean, we were able to create the accident one more time. So that's my lovebird. So if you really think about this, right, and if you want to do something different, not just this as the lovebird, what you could have done is, let's look at the headers again. And this is just I was thinking yesterday when I was preparing for the presentation. I was thinking maybe I should just keep this axis, maybe just do this way. So now I have two birds going behind each other. What about if you just copy this and just remove one of the birds from the pane, and then I thought maybe if I can edit the axis and make it a little bit smaller, right? So instead of starting 563,000, I thought maybe I'll just make it 120,000. So I'm making my axis bigger so that the bird will kind of shrink itself, right? So if you keep doing this kind of information and go to the dashboard and think where was this? Right. And then you could then pull this other one that you just created. Again, you can go back and change the size of it. I would rather make this more floating, right? And let me just go back to my sheet 4 and delete this bird also. So if you do this, so you're creating these birds right now to the extent that you want, and so if you think about that, right? Just create one bird like big one, and maybe another bird behind it, and copy these birds into as many as you want, and then go to the dashboard and get your second bird behind, third bird behind it. So what we are doing right now is that, again, from an artistic perspective, you're just looking into that and say, hey, this looks like a bird family, or with family or something, right? So just start getting to the curiosity what you can do during this process. So that's I was just thinking about it yesterday. I thought if I have some time, I could showcase it. I think we are pretty much done with the show and tell of the artwork. So in the end, the purpose of this contest was that the top 3 winners, people could actually buy the T-shirts or a duffel bag at the conference, and they could print using this dot matrix printer. So whenever I was walking by, I saw people who were buying those T-shirts. So it felt happy. And if you're one of those who are on the call who bought the T-shirt, thank you. But in addition to that, I've got some nice feedback in the Twitter sphere. Francois Eisenstadt, he's the product management leader. He actually loved all the work that I've done, and specifically he was kind of focusing on this accidental and data munging work. Andy Cotgrave, he actually commented on the Emerald City, like a very original idea, and he wanted me to blog about it. So if you check my blog, you will see the detailed descriptions on how I did that. Paul Bonneau, a good friend of mine, his favorite was also the Emerald City. He and I were thinking maybe they should have been in the top 10. I could have got a sure win, but lucky enough, I won with the landscape also. More than this, when I was coming from my hotel during the conference in September, or coming from the conference to the hotel that night, one of the guys in the cab driving and was saying, "KK, I love your landscape art, man." I didn't thank him at the time because he was just zooming through. So if you're on the call, thank you for your feedback. So I appreciate that. So I think we are coming to an end. I think we have enough time for more questions to take. Again, as we are getting into this holiday season, my creativity kind of looking into that. Same thing what we have just done with the building. Similar thing taking different shapes. This looks like Christmas trees, right? Again, you can build anything you want. So if I'm planning to send a greeting card, I'm planning not to buy any more of those in the future. So I'll try to use Tableau, to be creative and make some art. With that, you can follow me on Twitter. My handle is here. You can check my blog post, or you can send me emails to my work email or my personal email. I'll be happy to help you out. With that, thank you. And again, make friends with your red dude and start thinking creative.
Hello, KK. So that's wonderful. We think we have time for some questions, and I know I think Matt Francis is the first one. I was going to go ahead and unmute him. If anyone else has questions, just go ahead and post it on the WebEx, and I'll go ahead and unmute you. So Matt, you're unmuted right now.
Oh. KK, that was fantastic. I think this is a really good example of one of the true strengths of Tableau, that you essentially started playing with the data, and then you discovered, you were making something that looked artistic, and then used your strengths, in the product and your data skills to actually kind of then go from what was an accident to designing it into something artistic. And I think it's a great example of that's just playing with it. But it's the same way when you're making any kind of analysis or dashboard, you start off with just playing with the data. So that was, it's a really great, it's a fun thing, but the skills that you've got in doing that just translate to your work. The one question I did have was, I didn't catch the reason why, but the data set that you used, was that just one that you happened to be working with at the time, and it was just a random set that you had, or did you pick it particularly because it was any particular reason for picking it?
No, thanks for your comments on that. The reason I was using the data set, as I was saying, I use Chicago 311 data. It has about 3+ million records in it, and it has a lot of variability. So whenever I'm learning something about Tableau, either trying to use shapes or objects, I use the data in addition to our superstore or the coffee chain. So the fact that I have so many data points, I thought I'll just play with it. But again, it was not the intent or the purpose of the data, but it happened to kind of led me into this artistic way of creating examples with that. And one thing you kind of nailed there, Matt, that more than often nowadays I say that I'm playing with Tableau. I'm not using the word like I'm working with Tableau, because at the end of the day, you're trying to get to the end value based on the context that you're trying to solve. And I think a few people in the conference, they were saying it's almost like playing like a video game, right? Because you're you're seeing something visual, it's intriguing, and it's asking you more questions, and you're trying to solve the business problem, but it's making more fun during the process. It could get frustrated, but at the end of the day, it has the power and the tools and techniques that easily you can get to the end goal and be proud of it at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
Yeah, KK, I know that for me too, the creativity of the software amazes me as an employee, but amazes me when we're as we're trying to do things here and our creation of dashboards and work. Thinking about it as a creation project or product, sometimes kind of twist things. I often tell people to think of it more as like Microsoft Paint rather than coming at it from a view of a data structure. Think about the creativity aspect of the software. Okay, I don't see any other questions. I'm going to go ahead and just unmute everyone for a moment, and this will give us an opportunity just to give a little round of applause, and if there's any last questions, they can speak up real quick.
And I would like to just add to that, Patrick, one thing that, if you have an opportunity, go look for Tableau Wizards Art, and there were 10 finalists in there, and there are some amazing things that you could see how people have done.
Let's going to go ahead and give a quick round of applause. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Awesome moment will be hard to do every day.
And KK, with that, I'm going to shut it down. TDT ಮಂದನು ಈ ಕಡೆ ಬರಬೇಕು. ನೀವು ಆ್ಯಡ್ ಮಾಡಿ ರೀಇಂಪೋರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಬರೋದಲ್ಲಿ. ಆಮೇಲೆ ಇಲ್ಲೂ 5 ಕಾಲಮ್ ಬರಬೇಕು. ಆದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬರುತ್ತೆ, ಆಮೇಲೆ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. ನನಗೆ